The Sacred Cocoon: Why Motherhood Isn't About Bouncing Back, but Breaking Through. Have you ever watched a butterfly emerge from its chrysalis? That moment when what was once contained and hidden suddenly reveals itself in all its fragile, magnificent glory. I recently had the privilege of interviewing Courtney Williams, a remarkable advocate for Black maternal health, whose work has quite literally saved lives. Courtney isn't just changing the conversation around Black motherhood, she's rewriting the entire narrative with a boldness that leaves you breathless. She's the kind of woman who speaks truth with such clarity that it reverberates in your bones long after she's finished talking. During our conversation, she shared something that stopped me in my tracks. She said, "We keep telling mothers to bounce back when we should be telling them they're breaking through." Those words, they've been echoing in my mind for weeks because here's the truth that nobody tells you: transformation isn't something to be ashamed of, it's sacred. When I spoke with Courtney, her passion illuminated every word as she described how our culture has fundamentally misunderstood what happens when a woman becomes a mother. We've been sold this bizarre expectation that after creating literal human life, we should erase all evidence that it ever happened, as if the stretch marks, the softened belly, the emotional recalibration, the identity shift, as if all of that is somehow a failure rather than the most profound metamorphosis a human being can experience. The problem, Courtney explained, leaning forward with intensity, isn't that women change after giving birth. The problem is that we've been taught to see that change as something to overcome rather than something to honor. Let that sink in for a moment. What if we've been looking at this all wrong? What if the entire bounce back narrative isn't just unrealistic, but fundamentally disrespectful to the sacred journey of becoming a mother? The data tells us something is deeply broken in how we support new mothers, particularly Black mothers. Black women in America are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy related complications than white women. But beyond these devastating statistics lies another reality that rarely makes headlines: the invisible battles fought in silence: depression, anxiety, identity crisis, the pressure to perform wholeness while feeling shattered inside. When I asked Courtney about this, she didn't mince words. We're expected to be superheroes without capes, without rest, without complaint. And when we struggle, which is completely normal, we're made to feel like we failed some cosmic test of womanhood. The Black Mamas Matter Alliance, a national organization founded by Black women leaders, has been documenting these struggles for years. They found that Black mothers often face a perfect storm: systemic barriers to culturally relevant care, high rates of maternal mortality, and woefully inadequate mental health support. But they're doing something revolutionary about it. They are reframing the narrative. Instead of seeing postpartum challenges as personal failures, they're recognizing them as part of a sacred becoming. They are advocating for policy changes at federal and state levels. They're training doulas in ancestral wisdom that modern medicine has too often dismissed. They're building networks where Black women can share their stories without stigma or judgment. One of their most powerful initiatives is Queen's Village Tulsa, a sacred space where Black mothers gather to rest and heal together. Participants often arrive exhausted from what one woman described as performing wholeness, that exhausting charade of pretending everything is fine when you're barely holding it together. At Queen's Village, something remarkable happens. Women stop pretending, they share their unfiltered truths: the anxiety, the depression, the identity loss. And in that sharing, something shifts. The shame begins to dissolve. As one participant put it, "For the first time, I realized I wasn't broken. I was becoming. This is what healing looks like. Not a straight line, not a quick fix, but a messy, nonlinear journey of reclaiming your power, one vulnerable truth at a time. And here's what's fascinating: this movement isn't just happening in formal organizations, it's erupting organically online on TikTok under hashtags like before and after pregnancy Black woman. Thousands of mothers are documenting their raw journeys through pregnancy and postpartum. They're showing the stretch marks, the exhaustion, the emotional breakdowns, but also the joy, the growth, the fierce pride in their transforming bodies. These aren't just social media posts, they're acts of revolution. Because every time a Black mother refuses to hide her postpartum reality, she creates space for another woman to breathe a little easier in her own skin, to realize she's not alone, to understand that the messy middle, what Courtney Williams calls the cocoon phase, isn't something to rush through. It's where the magic happens, the magic of becoming. I want to tell you about a moment during my conversation with Courtney that brought tears to my eyes. She described working with a mother who was devastated by her reflection in the mirror 8 months after giving birth. This woman looked at her softer belly, her wider hips, the roadmap of stretch marks across her abdomen, and all she could see was failure. "What do you see when you look at me?" she asked Courtney, voice breaking. Courtney's response was beautiful. "I see a woman whose body has done the most sacred thing possible, created and sustained life. Those marks aren't flaws, they're evidence of your power." Then she asked the woman a question that changed everything. What if instead of asking, "How do I get my body back?" you asked, "Who am I becoming?" That question, it shifts everything, doesn't it? Because the truth is, you can't go back. And why would you want to? You've witnessed the miracle of bringing life into the world. You've discovered reserves of strength you never knew you had. You've been broken open and put back together in a new configuration. You're not the same person you were before, you're more. But our culture doesn't have good language for this kind of transformation. We're obsessed with before and after narratives that show dramatic weight loss, tightened skin, the erasure of any evidence that your body did something miraculous. What would happen if we created a new narrative, one that honors the cocoon phase as sacred, one that celebrates the stretch marks as battle scars of the most beautiful kind, one that recognizes that healing doesn't have to be pretty or perfect. It can look like showing up in small ways every day, even when it's hard. This isn't just about making women feel better about their postpartum bodies, though that matters deeply. This is about recognizing that how we treat mothers reflects our values as a society. And right now, we're failing. We're failing when we expect mothers to bounce back without adequate support. We are failing when we treat postpartum depression as a personal weakness rather than a medical condition requiring care. We're failing when we isolate new mothers in nuclear family units without the village that humans have relied on for millennia. But here's the good news: we can change this narrative, and it starts with telling the truth that Courtney Williams and organizations like Black Mamas Matter Alliance are fighting to amplify. Transformation is not shameful, it's sacred. You are not alone in the struggle. Thousands of Black women are walking this path alongside you, facing the same invisible battles, finding their way back to themselves, or rather, forward to their new selves. And healing is revolutionary. It doesn't have to follow anyone else's timeline or look like anyone else's journey. Your healing might be messy, it might involve therapy, medication, prayer, dance, tears, laughter, rage, probably all of the above. And that's not just okay, it's beautiful. Because when you heal, you don't just transform your own life, You create ripples that extend to your children, your community, generations yet unborn. As Courtney so powerfully put it, when a Black mother chooses to heal, she's not just saving herself, she's breaking generational patterns, she's revolutionary. So I stand here today with a challenge for each of you. Not a gentle suggestion, but a radical call to action. Reject the lie that transformation is something to be hidden, rushed through, or ashamed of. Embrace the sacred messiness of becoming. If you are a mother, especially a Black mother, I challenge you to look in the mirror today and see your postpartum body not as a project to be fixed, but as living testimony to your power. Those stretch marks, they're your warrior stripes. That softness, it's where your child finds comfort. That exhaustion in your eyes, it's evidence of your relentless love. If you love a mother, I challenge you to stop asking when she'll get her body back and instead ask how you can support her journey forward. Bring a meal, hold the baby so she can shower, listen without judgment when she needs to fall apart. And if you have any influence at all in healthcare, policy, or culture, I challenge you to examine how you might be perpetuating the toxic bounce back narrative and commit to changing it today. Because this isn't just about mothers, it's about all of us. It's about creating a world that honors transformation instead of fearing it, a world that understands that breaking open isn't failure, it's how the light gets in. The butterfly doesn't apologize for the time it spent in the chrysalis. It doesn't rush the process or feel ashamed of its temporary formlessness. It trusts the transformation. What if we did the same? What if we honored the sacred cocoon of becoming a mother? What if we stopped demanding that women bounce back and instead celebrated their breaking through? What if we recognize that the most beautiful transformations often look like complete disaster in the middle? I believe we'd create a world where mothers, especially Black mothers who have been carrying these burdens in silence for too long, could finally breathe, where they could trust their bodies, their instincts, their unique paths, where they could see their stretch marks as sacred geometry, mapping the miracle of bringing life into the world. A world where we finally understand that motherhood isn't about getting back to who you were, it's about becoming who you were always meant to be. And that becoming, with all its mess and glory, its grief and joy, its breaking and mending, isn't something to rush through or hide away. It's something to honor, to witness, to celebrate, because it's not just sacred, it's revolutionary.